Looking back, I'm the girlfriend who crossed a line so badly that my boyfriend stopped wanting me entirely. Everyone thinks he's being oversensitive, that I barely said anything wrong, but they weren't there for what I actually did. The truth is, I humiliated him in the worst possible way, and I knew exactly what I was doing when I said it. What's crushing me isn't just that our sex life vanished overnight, it's that I destroyed the one person who made me feel safe. My friends keep telling me he'll get over it, that guy's bounced back from ego bruises, but they don't know the full context. They don't know how many times I'd already chipped away at him before that night, or what he heard after the joke that made it so much worse. I'm terrified because I'm watching someone I love shut down emotionally, and I'm the reason why. I'm going to lay out exactly what happened, including the part I've been too ashamed to admit to anyone. There's a specific moment that changed everything, something I said after everyone laughed that I thought he couldn't hear. Once you know that detail, you'll understand why he looks at me differently now. Ryan and I had been together for 2 years when this happened. He's quiet, steady, the kind of guy who shows love through actions rather than words. He'd drive 40 minutes just to bring me soup when I was sick. He'd listen to me complain about work drama for hours without checking his phone. He made me feel heard in a way no one else ever had. Our relationship wasn't perfect, though. I'd always been the more outgoing one, the person who filled silences and made friends easily. Ryan was content being my plus one, standing slightly behind me at parties, smiling at my stories. Sometimes I wondered if he was too passive, too willing to fade into the background. I'd catch myself wishing he'd be more assertive, more dominant, especially in the bedroom. We had chemistry, but it was gentle. Safe, he was attentive and caring, but there wasn't that raw intensity I'd experienced with an ex years ago. I told myself it didn't matter, that mature love was supposed to be calm and comfortable. But occasionally when I'd have drinks with my girlfriends and they'd share their wild stories, I'd feel a tiny pang of something, envy, maybe, or just curiosity about what I was missing. The first time I made a comment about it was subtle. We were getting dressed after being intimate, and I made a throwaway joke about fun-sized packages. Ryan's smile had faltered for just a second before he laughed it off. I'd kissed his cheek and moved on, not thinking much of it. Looking back, that was the first crack. The second time was a few months later when I was frustrated about something unrelated and he was trying to comfort me. I snapped that he was too nice, and that sometimes I needed someone who'd take charge instead of asking permission for everything. His face had closed off then, but he didn't argue. He just went quiet for the rest of the evening. I didn't realize I was building a pattern. I didn't see that I was planting seeds of inadequacy in someone who'd never been anything but good to me. The night everything imploded was my friend Marissa's birthday party. She'd rented out the back room of a bar downtown, and about 20 of us were there drinking cocktails and playing stupid party games. Ryan had come with me even though he didn't know most of my friends well. He'd spent the first hour making conversation with Marissa's boyfriend, being his usual low-key, pleasant self. Around 10 o'clock, the games started getting more risk. Someone suggested, never have I ever, but with confession requirements. When it was my turn, Jess, who was absolutely hammered, asked me point-blank what my biggest bedroom disappointment was. The table erupted in laughter and encouraging shouts. I could have deflected. I could have made a joke about bad kisses or awkward positions. Instead, I glanced at Ryan, who was sitting a few seats down talking to someone else, and I made my choice. Honestly, I said, loud enough for our section of the table to hear. I'm just saying sometimes you order a foot-long and get a 6-inch instead. I held my hands up in a measuring gesture. Like the menu promised more than the meal delivered, you know. The women around me screamed with laughter. Marissa nearly spit out her drink. Jess was pounding the table. I felt a rush of validation of being the fun one, the bold one who could make everyone laugh. I didn't look at Ryan right away. When I finally did, he was staring down at his beer, his jaw tight. Definitely heard, but he didn't say anything, didn't make a scene. He just stood up a few minutes later and told me he was going outside for air. That should have been my wake-up call. That should have been the moment I realized I genuinely hurt him and needed to apologize immediately. Instead, I rationalized it. It was just a joke. We were all being crude and silly. He knew I loved him. He was being oversensitive. Jess leaned over, still giggling. Oh my God, was that about Ryan? I should have said no, I should have backtracked. But I was tipsy and riding the high of making everyone laugh, and I wanted to keep that feeling going. So I shrugged with this conspiratorial smile and said, I mean, he's amazing in every other way. You can't have everything, right? More laughter, more validation. More proof that I was fun and honest and relatable, not uptight or fake like girlfriends who pretended everything was perfect. Marissa leaned in, lowering her voice slightly. But like, how do you deal with it? Are you satisfied? And here's where I made it so much worse. Here's the part I haven't told anyone. I didn't know Ryan had come back inside. He'd walked in through a different entrance and was standing about 10 feet away at the bar waiting to order another beer. He was completely within earshot, but I didn't see him. I was too focused on my audience. Honestly, I just think about my ex sometimes, I said, still with that casual, joking tone. Like Marcus was an asshole, but at least he had the equipment to back up the ego, you know. With Ryan, it's like, he's so sweet, but I can't help wondering if this is really it for the rest of my life. The women around me had mixed reactions. Some laughed uncomfortably, others looked sympathetic. Jess, who was too drunk to read the room, cackled and said something about me deserving better. That's when I saw him. Ryan was standing there with 2 beers in his hands, one he'd ordered for me. His face was completely blank, but his hands were shaking slightly. Our eyes met for maybe 3 seconds before he set both beers on the bar and walked out of the room. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might be sick. All the alcohol-fueled confidence evaporated instantly. I jumped up and followed him, calling his name, but he was already out the front door and halfway down the block. Ryan, wait, I was just joking around, I didn't mean. He stopped walking and turned to face me. I'd never seen him angry before, actually angry. His eyes were red. You compared me to your ex, he said quietly. In front of your friends, you talked about my body like I was some disappointing product you got scammed into buying. It was just stupid drunk talk. Everyone was being ridiculous and oversharing. It didn't mean anything. You think about him when we're together? Ryan's voice cracked slightly. You lie there with me and wish I was someone else. No. I don't, I just said that because it got a laugh. He nodded like something was clicking into place. You wanted them to think you're funny and honest, and I was the price. Got it. Ryan, please, I'm going home, he said. Don't follow me. He walked away, and I stood there on the sidewalk in my party dress, shivering and crying while my friends' laughter drifted out from inside the bar. I'd never felt more disgusted with myself. I went back inside long enough to grab my coat and make an excuse about not feeling well. Marissa gave me a knowing look that made me want to scream. The Uber ride home was a blur of tears and desperate texts to Ryan that he didn't answer. When I got to my apartment, I called him 6 times. On the 7th try, he picked up. I'm sorry, I said immediately. I'm so sorry. I was drunk and stupid and I should never have said any of that. Which part shouldn't you have said? His voice was flat. The joke about my size or the part about wishing I was your ex. All of it, none of it was true. I was just trying to be entertaining and I went way too far. Was it true? He interrupted. When we're together, do you wish I was different? I hesitated for half a second too long. I was trying to formulate the perfect reassuring response, but that pause was enough. Thanks for answering, he said and hung up. I didn't sleep that night. I replayed the entire evening over and over, watching myself make choice after choice that led to this moment. I'd humiliated someone I loved for social currency. I'd exposed his deepest insecurities to my friends like they were gossip to trade. And I'd admitted, out loud where he could hear, that I compared him to someone else. The next morning I drove to his place. He let me in, but he wouldn't look at me directly. We sat on his couch with 3 feet of space between us, and I tried to explain myself, to apologize properly, to fix what I'd broken. I love you, I told him. I love everything about you. The joke was shitty and cruel and I hate that I hurt you, but please know that you're enough for me. You're more than enough. Are you settling for me? He asked. Like in your ideal world, would you be with someone else? No, you're who I want to be with. But am I who you want to fuck? The bluntness shocked me. Ryan never talked like that. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Answer the question, Claire. When we're in bed, am I what you want, or am I just acceptable, good enough because I'm nice to you in other ways? You're what I want, I insisted. I've never faked anything with you. You literally said you think about Marcus, he cut in. While we're together, you said that. I was exaggerating for the story. I was drunk and trying to be outrageous. So you're a liar then. You lied to your friends to get attention. That's supposed to make me feel better. I didn't have a good answer. Either I'd told the truth and I was a horrible person, or I'd lied and humiliated him for entertainment. Both options made me want to disappear. Ryan leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. I need some time, he said. I can't just pretend this didn't happen. Every time I look at you right now, I hear you laughing about me with your friends. How much time? I don't know. He didn't break up with me, but he might as well have. We went from seeing each other 4 or 5 times a week to maybe once every 10 days. Our texts became polite and infrequent, and we didn't have sex at all. The first few times we hung out after that night, I'd try to initiate something, kissing his neck, running my hand up his thigh, and he'd gently but firmly stop me. I'm not really in the mood, he'd say, and then change the subject. After the 4th rejection, I asked him directly if we were ever going to be intimate again. I don't know if I can, he admitted. I can't stop thinking about what you said. When I touch you, all I can think about is how I'm disappointing you, how you're wishing I was bigger or different or more like your ex. It kills everything. But you're not disappointing me. That was just stupid drunk talk. Then why'd you say it? His eyes were desperate. If it wasn't true at all, where did it even come from? That's when I realized the real damage I'd done. It wasn't just about the joke itself. It was that I'd revealed a truth he suspected but had never confirmed. I had occasionally wished for more intensity. I had, in weak moments, compared our sex life to what I'd had with Marcus. I'd never actually thought about Marcus while with Ryan, but I'd thought about the feeling of being with someone more aggressive, more physically dominant. And now Ryan knew that some part of me found him lacking, even if I loved him overall. We limped along for another month. He was still kind to me, still texted good morning and asked about my day. But there was a distance between us that felt impossible to bridge. He never stayed over anymore. He'd kiss me goodbye on the cheek like I was his aunt. I tried everything I could think of. I sent him long, heartfelt messages about how much I valued him. I showed up at his place with his favorite food. I suggested couples therapy. He was receptive to all of it in theory, but nothing changed. He was still too hurt to let me close. The worst part was seeing how it affected him beyond just our relationship. His confidence, which had never been aggressive but had been steady, seemed to crumble. He mentioned canceling plans with friends because he wasn't feeling social. He stopped going to the gym. He'd always been on the quiet side, but now he seemed almost invisible, like he was trying to take up as little space as possible. I knew I'd done that to him. I'd taken someone secure in himself and made him feel inadequate. My friends didn't help. When I tried to talk to Marissa about how guilty I felt, she waved it off. Honestly, you were drunk and making a joke. If he can't handle a little locker room talk, that's kind of proving your point about him being too sensitive. Jess was even worse. Girl, there are plenty of guys out there who can take a joke and satisfy you. Maybe this is the universe telling you to trade up. I stopped talking to them about it. I stopped talking to them much at all, actually. Every time I saw them, I thought about that night, about performing for their approval while destroying someone I claimed to love. 2 months after the party, Ryan asked if we could meet for dinner. I thought maybe he was finally ready to move forward, to try rebuilding what we'd had. Instead, he broke up with me. I can't get past it, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I've tried, but every time we're together, I feel like I'm auditioning for a part I've already been told I'm wrong for. I can't be intimate with someone who sees me as a compromise. I don't see you that way, I said, crying openly in the middle of the restaurant. I made a horrible mistake, but I love you. You're not a compromise. Maybe not consciously, he said, but it's there. You said it yourself. You wonder if this is it for the rest of your life, and I can't be with someone who's wondering that. I can't spend my life trying to measure up to a ghost. Please don't do this. I'll do anything. Claire, you killed it, he said gently. Whatever we had, it's dead. You can't resurrect trust after you've stomped on it in front of an audience. He paid for both our meals, hugged me goodbye, and walked out of my life. I absolutely fell apart. I called in sick to work for 3 days and did nothing but cry and scroll through old photos of us. I drafted and deleted hundreds of texts begging him to reconsider. I wrote him a 7-page letter apologizing for everything, explaining that I'd been insecure about being the less sexually adventurous one in my friend group, and had overcompensated by exaggerating and performing. He never responded to the letter. I don't even know if he read it. The weeks after the breakup were a fog of self-loathing. I'd catch myself starting to text him about something funny, then remember I'd lost that privilege. I'd see a movie he'd want to watch and feel the loss like a physical ache. I missed him desperately, but more than that, I missed who I'd been when I was with him, someone worthy of that kind of steady, generous love. My friends tried to set me up with other guys. Get back out there, Marissa urged. The best way to get over someone is to get under someone else. The idea made me feel ill. I didn't want someone else. I wanted to undo what I'd done. 3 months post-breakup, I ran into Ryan at a coffee shop. He was with a woman I didn't recognize, pretty, laughing at something he'd said. He looked lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. When he saw me, he gave me a polite nod and a small smile, then turned back to his conversation. I felt like I'd been punched. He was moving on, he was fine, and I was still drowning in guilt. That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I created a fake Instagram account and looked through the woman's profile. Her name was Sophie. She was a graphic designer. She posted a lot about hiking and her dog. She looked happy and confident and nothing like me. I found myself wondering if Ryan had told her about me, about what I'd done. I wondered if he'd found someone who made him feel adequate, who didn't chip away at his confidence with careless comments and public humiliation. I hoped he had, but I also felt a toxic stab of jealousy that made me hate myself even more. Around the same time, I had a falling out with Jess. She made some dismissive comment about Ryan finally being out of my hair, and I snapped. I told her that she'd encouraged some of my worst behavior, that she'd laughed along while I destroyed my relationship, that she was a terrible friend. She fired back that I was being dramatic, that I needed to take responsibility for my own choices instead of blaming her for my drunk honesty. She wasn't wrong about the responsibility part, which made it hurt more. I started seeing a therapist. Not couples therapy, obviously, that ship had sailed, but individual therapy to figure out why I'd sabotaged something good. Why I'd valued my friend's laughter over my partner's dignity. Why I'd performed cruelty for social approval. Dr. Morrison helped me unpack a lot. We talked about my need for external validation, about how I'd grown up as the entertaining one in my family, the one who got attention by being funny and a little shocking. We discussed how I'd internalized the idea that being sexually satisfied meant having a particular type of experience, one modeled by media and my more adventurous friends rather than by actual connection and care. You treated your relationship like it was a story you were telling, Dr. Morrison said during one session. Like Ryan was a character you could exaggerate about for effect, rather than a real person with feelings. That observation gutted me, partly because it was so accurate. I also came to understand that my comment about Marcus wasn't really about Marcus at all. It was about wanting to seem worldly and experienced, like I'd had this rich sexual history that made me an authority. Marcus had actually been mediocre in bed and emotionally abusive. The relationship had been awful. But I'd retrofitted the memory to serve my narrative in that moment, to make myself interesting. And Ryan had paid the price for my performance. 6 months after the breakup, I sent Ryan one final message. Not begging to get back together, but genuinely apologizing without expecting anything in return. I told him I understood what I'd done, that I'd been working on myself, and that he deserved someone who treated him with consistent respect. I thanked him for the 2 years we'd had and told him I hoped he found happiness. He responded 2 days later with a single sentence, "I appreciate you saying that. I hope you're doing well." It was kind, measured, and final. There was no door left open. That was 8 months ago. Ryan is still with Sophie based on what I can see from mutual friends' social media. They look genuinely happy. I'm dating someone new, a guy named Tom who's funny and successful and objectively checks all the boxes. But I find myself holding back with him, afraid to fully invest, terrified I'll reveal myself to be the same person who destroyed something precious, because I couldn't resist a cheap laugh. Sometimes Tom will ask me about past relationships, and I'll give him the sanitized version of what happened with Ryan. We just grew apart, I'll say, or the timing wasn't right. I can't bring myself to tell him the truth, that I publicly humiliated my ex, compared him to someone else in front of an audience, and destroyed his ability to be vulnerable with me. What would he think of me if he knew? Would he wonder when I'd turn on him too, when his inevitable flaws would become material for my next performance? The worst moments are when I'm with my current friend group, women I met through work who never knew Ryan, and the conversation turns to relationship complaints. Someone will make a joke about her boyfriend's inadequacies and everyone will laugh and I'll feel my stomach twist. I never join in anymore. I've become the one who changes the subject, who deflects with something positive. They probably think I'm boring now, maybe I am, but I can't go back to being the person who gets validation from tearing someone down. Last month I saw Ryan's mom at the grocery store. We'd always had a good relationship, she treated me like a daughter. When she saw me, her face did this complicated thing where warmth and disappointment crossed simultaneously. "Claire," she said, polite but distant. "How are you?" "I'm okay, how are you, how's Ryan?" "He's doing really well," she said, and there was something protective in her tone. "He's very happy." "I'm glad," I said, and I meant it. "He deserves that." She studied my face for a moment, and I wondered what Ryan had told her about why we'd broken up. Then she touched my arm briefly and said, "Take care of yourself, sweetheart," and walked away. That small interaction broke something open in me. I cried in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, mourning not just the relationship but the person I'd been when I was worthy of that family's affection. Here's what I've learned. For whatever it's worth, words have consequences that outlive the moment you speak them. You can't unsay something once it's been heard, can't unring that bell. I thought I was being entertaining and honest that night at Marissa's party, but what I actually did was betray someone's trust in the most public way possible. Ryan didn't stop touching me because he was oversensitive or couldn't take a joke. He stopped because I'd made him feel fundamentally inadequate in the most intimate aspect of our relationship, and I'd done it for an audience. I turned something private and vulnerable into a punchline, and then I'd made it worse by comparing him to someone else. The cruelest part is that my complaints were barely about reality. Our sex life had been fine, good, even. But I'd invented a narrative of dissatisfaction to make myself seem more interesting, to bond with my friends over shared frustrations, to feel like I was being refreshingly honest instead of just cruel. I destroyed a good man's confidence and a good relationship because I couldn't resist playing for laughs. I'm telling this story now because I saw a post on social media yesterday. One of those, confess your relationship sins threads where people anonymously share their worst moments. Someone wrote about making a joke about their partner's body, and the responses were split. Half the people said the partner was being too sensitive, that everyone makes jokes sometimes. The other half said the person was cruel and deserved the consequences. I wanted to comment with my whole story, to tell them that the consequences are real and lasting, that you don't get to wound someone and then demand they get over it on your timeline. But I couldn't bring myself to do it anonymously, like I was still hiding from what I'd done. So I'm owning it here with my full context and culpability. I'm the person who valued being funny over being kind. I'm the girlfriend who killed her relationship with a joke and a comparison and a moment of desperate social climbing. I'm the reason a good man second-guesses himself in intimate moments now. Ryan was right to leave me. I don't know if I'm better now, if I've genuinely changed, or if I'm just more aware of my capacity for cruelty. I hope I'm different. I hope Tom never sees the version of me that Ryan saw that night, but I can't be sure. In that uncertainty, that knowledge that I'm capable of that kind of casual destruction is something I have to live with every single day. Was I wrong? Obviously yes. But was I wrong enough that I deserved to lose someone I loved? The people who know pieces of the story are split on that question. You've heard the whole thing now, the joke, the comparison, the public humiliation, all of it. What do you think? Was it just a drunken mistake that he should have forgiven, or did I reveal something about myself that made me unworthy of the love he was offering? I genuinely don't know anymore. But I do know that I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be someone who would never make that choice again, trying to earn back the version of myself that Ryan once believed I was. That's the real consequence I'm living with, not just that I lost him, but that I lost my own ability to trust myself to do the right thing when it matters most.